I'm pleased to welcome you to the gathering here today to celebrate the occasion of the International Day of Education, themed Learning for Lasting Peace.
Had a great time at the event. I think one of my takeaways is that we all have a role to play in learning about our history as a people, also documenting for the future. So today was an amazing day for me. I think that the event is needful, especially for young people who have the opportunity to talk to older people right now. I would challenge you to do so.
Understand the importance of education. Just like what in public health, we believe that awareness is one thing that can affect people and translate to good change.
Alright, so I have to say I'm happy that I'm able to join the Restore Heart Foundation to talk about education, to talk about history. And it has been a very engaging event to learn. I've learned, I've relearned, and I've unlearned some things. And what I will say is we need to educate our young people, children, pupils, and every other person about our history so that we can write our history with ourselves.
Okay, so welcome to the International Day of Education of the Restored Heart Foundation.
Yes, so we'll be on our feet to start with the national anthem, which is the first item on our agenda. So please let's kindly be on our feet while we recite the second stanza of the national anthem.
Okay, so we'll go at the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. O God of creation, direct our noble cause, guide our leaders right, help our use the truth to.
This meeting is being recorded.
In love and honesty, to grow and living just and true. Great love's behind our day, to view the nation where peace and justice shall reign. All right, let's sing. Let's put another round of applause.
Okay, so the next agenda here would be the opening remark from the Executive Director of the Restored Heart Foundation, a seasoned philanthropist and education enthusiast. So please join me and put your hands together as we welcome Mr. Samuel Oluwatimilekin.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pleased to welcome you to the gathering here today to celebrate the occasion of the International Day of Education, themed Learning for Lasting Peace. At the Restored Heart Foundation, one of the initiatives we do here, one of the programs we do here is called the Young Historian Competition, which basically provides incentives to allow students in Nigerian universities to rekindle their curiosity about our history as a nation. We put in their hands the realization of our values, helping them develop valuable leadership qualities and overcoming the national differences that separate us. Today's plenary session revolves around the theme, educational narrative, nurturing young historians for lasting peace. The very essence of this narrative lies in recognizing the role education plays in shaping the mindset of our youth. A conscious understanding of history fosters a sense of identity and a shared heritage that transcends individual differences and forms the bedrock of a peaceful society. As we celebrate the International Day of Education today and also long for a lasting peace, I want us to collectively embark on a journey to instill the consciousness in the younger generation. By weaving history into the fabric of their education, we empower them to become custodians of peace, equipped with the knowledge and wisdom to navigate the complexities of our world. As young change makers, I motivate us and encourage us to accept the task of raising the young historians who will become the architects of lasting peace. Together we can create a future that powerfully embraces the sound of our past, leading us to unity, understanding, and cohabitation. Thank you once again for joining us and have a pleasant session.
So before we go ahead, we would like to introduce ourselves.
Yes. Sorry for that. I am Ritwa Bukir, a programs officer at the Restored Hearts Foundation.
And I am Chamaka Jonathan, the program officer at the Restored Hearts Foundation. So before we go ahead, we'll just give us a little overview about the Restored Heart Foundation and what we do, and just talk about some of our projects briefly. So for some of us who don't know about the Restored Heart Foundation, I know some of us might be hearing about us for the first time. So we a non-profit organization based here in Abuja, and we focus our projects around two SDGs, which are SDG 3 and SDG 4. That's quality, that's good health and well-being, and quality education. And we also try as much as possible to incorporate SDG 8, which is decent work and economic growth, in all our projects. And last year we had several projects. We organized the Teacher Bank project, we organized the Young Historian competition, we also had a medical outreach program. So my colleague here will give us a little overview about the Teacher Bank project.
Okay, thank you so much. The Teacher Bank project is a project that houses teachers. It's like the bank that keeps teachers who make sure that education is taken to underserved communities. Here we take teachers and equip them with the skills, with all of the necessary knowledge that they would need to pass down education to underserved communities. We deal basically with teens and young adults, that is in secondary schools. Last year it was at Government Day Secondary School, New Gwari in Niger State. So we had 8 teachers who taught English and mathematics. Because of their passion, they took on other subjects, like those who were teaching mathematics, delved into economics and the subjects that are related, further maths and all of those. Then for English, they taught literature and arts and humanities as it concerns languages. So we ran that successfully, and our impact stories are really amazing. I mean, it was a school that was close to a lockdown because they didn't have teachers. They do not even have basic facilities. But with the Teacher Bank project, the members of the community were able to send their children there. Even those who were not schooling in that particular school turned around and started attending that school, because they would go back home, tell their communities that there are teachers in this school now, so they can come. So when we came, we had only over 100 students, but over time, they added the number, in fact, rose times, well, I'm not so much a good number person, but it rose to over 500 students. So at that point, we knew that, okay, this community needed it, and our Teacher Bank was serving the purpose of that community. I mean, the memories lingered with the community, the students, and even us as we go about that project.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing. Please, let's put the round of applause. Okay, so I'll talk about the Young Historian competition of the Restaurant Heart Foundation. So last year we had the maiden edition of the Young Historian competition. I think it's the first of its kind because I don't think I've heard of any history competition. So the aim of this particular project was to improve the knowledge and understanding of history amongst the young persons in Nigeria and across Africa, because we've come to realize that most young persons are not even conversant, they're not even aware of Nigerian history and African history. So this particular project helped us to improve the knowledge of history, and we had several stages of this particular competition. We had the application stage where we had over 2,000 applications of young persons applying across different states in Nigeria. So after this call for application, we streamed it down to 800 persons. We streamed it down again to 100 persons. After when we had the top 30 who started the competition proper. So we also had the selection stage where we had the selection panelists who interviewed these young persons. Then we kick-started the competition. We had a lot of stages. We had the quarter-final stage, we had the semi-final stage, we had the grand final. Like, it was so interesting. It was fun because it was so interesting to know that young persons are very conversant with Nigerian history, not only Nigerian history, but African history as well. So it was really interesting. And we're also having the second edition this year. And the winner of our competition last year went home with a whooping sum of 500,000. Yes, and our first runner up, 300,000. And both of them had a 5-day trip to Kenya. So it's really interesting. And I also want all of us, I want us all to look out for this year's edition. Let's encourage young persons across Nigeria to apply for this wonderful competition. So the next on our agenda is the introduction to the theme of today, which is International Day of Education.
Alright, so thank you, Amaka, for that rundown. Basically, the theme for this year is Learning for Lasting Peace. And as can be seen, our plenary session intends to give us a feel of learning that can bring about peace. That if we are able to connect with our history, we are better able to become more ambassadors of peace. And if peace is sustained, learning takes place. That will be discussed extensively at the plenary session. So, we would proceed to welcome speakers of the panel.
Okay, well, before then, because some of our speakers are not yet here, so yeah, but before then, I still want to throw more light on what my colleague said about this year's theme. So, as we all know, every January 24th of every year is a day set aside by the United Nations to commemorate the International Day of Education. Like, it's a day to raise awareness on the importance of education and why we should make education inclusive and accessible to all. So it's actually started in 2018 when the United Nations General Assembly met, and we felt that it is very important and there is a need for us to set a day aside for the International Day of Education. And this year's edition is the 6th time, yeah. And the theme for this year's edition is Learning for Lasting Peace. So that's the theme globally is Learning for Lasting Peace. And this theme aligns and resonates with what we do at the Restore Heart Foundation. Just like I stated earlier, the Young Restore competition where we assess the knowledge of young persons of history and exploring how education and understanding of history can help to make our society more peaceful and more sustainable. So that is why we are here today. And here we have our panelists amongst us. So we're going to have our panel session here today and we have our panelists here today. So we're going to make start.
So I'm reading the profile of one of our panelists. He is a peace builder and religious practitioner, 10 years of experience in promoting peace and advancing sustainable development across Africa. He has demonstrated years of experience in non-profit youth development, peace building, gender, leadership, education, and sustainable development. He's very passionate about bringing change to his community and society. He has a proven track record of organizing and leading impactful programs and interventions on youth development, peace building, leadership, gender, SDGs, and AU Agenda 2063 across Africa, which has broadened his perception of the multifaceted problems facing African youth with a holistic approach to addressing and providing solutions to them through various interventions, advocacy efforts, campaigns, community and stakeholder engagement. He currently serves as the executive director at the Center for Peace, Advocacy and Sustainable Development, where he leads his team in designing and implementing programs on peace building, youth development, leadership, gender, social justice, UN SDGs, and AU Agenda 2063 for African development, impacting about 5,000 people, both directly and indirectly, and different communities in Africa. He has led various advocacy efforts, engaged in community and youth development, and contributed to various policy frameworks. He also has played important roles in organizing and managing valuable and impactful programs and projects across Africa on peace building, gender-based violence, education, leadership, and youth development. He is a member of the civil society working group on youth, peace, and security, US Youth, Peace and Security Coalition, Young African Leadership Initiative, Amnesty International, Young Professional in Foreign Policy, Forbes FPK, Commonwealth Youth Ambassadors Network, Alliance of NGOs and CSOs for South-South Cooperation, Nigerian Coalition on Youth, Peace and Security, the Fellow of the Cardinal Onaikan Foundation for Peace, Open Mind Young Voices of Frederick Ebert and Community Organization. And this is a very rich profile. Please join me as I welcome Mr. Augustine Winter.
So our next panelist is the Secretary General, Follow the Money International. He is a seasoned governance, transparency, and accountability expert with a profound history of collaborating with marginalized grassroots communities across Africa. He was formerly a youth leader for the Global Partnership for Education. He played a vital role in advancing education systems in developing nations to increase access to quality education. At the helm of Follow the Money, the task enhanced community engagement initiatives spanning 36 Nigerian states and 10 African countries. He orchestrates a network of over 20,000 youth, organizing them to demand enhanced public services from elected representatives. He adeptly manages stakeholder relations and policy dialogues in alignment with Follow the Money's mission. He holds an unwavering belief in young people's potential to drive transformative change, eradicating extreme poverty and deprivation. He is a skilled speaker and trainer and has imparted knowledge to community workers, public servants, and young social activists on government budget tracking, social accountability, and fiscal transparency. His impact is evident in citizens' interactions with representatives and successful government project completions in the education, healthcare, and wash sectors. Wow, this is a wonderful profile. Please, with a round of applause, let's make welcome Mr. Mukhtar Halim Modu.
The next person is a profile I'm excited to read. It's a she. I know this is not about. So, she's the founder of Beyond the Classroom Foundation. She's a social entrepreneur working in marginalized communities in Nigeria, focusing on education for children, adolescent girls through Beyond the Classroom Foundation. In the last 5 years, Beyond the Classroom Foundation has impacted over 30,000 children, providing free educational supplies with over 100 children back to school at the internally displaced persons camp in Abuja. Beyond the Classroom Foundation also supports adolescent girls to stay in school through the provision of free menstrual hygiene and sanitary pads. She is an alumna of the Lead Africa Social Innovator Program, Global Shapers Community of the World Economic Forum, Climate Reality Fellowship, Walter Carrington Fellowship, and the Academy for Women Entrepreneurs 2022. She was named one of Current World's 10 Powerful Women in Technology and one of the 100 Power Women in Nigeria by Power Woman Network in 2021. She has received other awards, including the 2021 Luther King Heroes Award, the Women of Impact Award 2021, and the Women Achievers Award 2021 by the United States Exchange Alumni Association in Nigeria. She founded Bandini Africa, a social enterprise focused on creating educational and entertainment resources to promote reading, to inspire learning, and to spark the creativity of children, fighting book famine while promoting the rich African culture and history. Through Bandini Africa, she writes storybooks, coloring and tracing books, life skills, health and hygiene books for children, and has designed a menstrual health and hygiene board game for adolescent girls in partnership with Beyond the Classroom Foundation. Bambina Africa has distributed over 40,000 free books to children in government schools and the internally displaced persons camps across Abuja through the One Child campaign. Before this, she served as the administrative lead at the Secretariat of the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council in the office of the Vice President. She is a firm believer in the power of educating children to cultivate their character, while creating awareness in them from an early age. Her goal is to create resources that will enable parents and educators to nurture cultured, mindful, compassionate, kind, socially and emotionally aware children. Please put your hands together as we welcome Raquel Kasha Daniel.
Okay, all right. So this moment we'll be inviting our moderator of our plenary session. Okay, but before then, I would have to call on our next panelist. Okay, so our next panelist is the Program Officer, Education as a Vaccine. He is an advocate for adolescent health and well-being with over 5 years of experience in advocacy. He is highly committed to promoting access to health services for young people, particularly vulnerable groups, including adolescent girls and young people living with HIV through advocacy, stakeholders engagement, and capacity building. This commitment is demonstrated in his role as the Advocacy Officer at Education as a Vaccine, Nigeria, where he leads the implementation of advocacy initiatives targeting at improving health outcomes for young people. He is the country focal person for the youth constituency of Partnership for Maternal, Newborn, Child and Adolescent Health, hosted by WHO, and serves as the health lead for Meaningful Adolescent and Youth Engagement Coalition Group, MAYE. He is also a member of the National Technical Working Group on Adolescent Health and Development. With a round of applause, please let's make welcome Mr. Philip.
Okay, so finally, the person who handles this panel of beautiful people for us is Vanessa Akpelan, who is the Monitoring and Evaluating Officer at the Restored Heart Foundation.
different wars taking place in different regions, and unrest basically on the rise. And bringing it even down to us here in Nigeria, we see so much insecurity happening across the country, across all the geopolitical zones. As it stands right now, no geopolitical zone is left out, no place is left out. Now, our panel session is on educational narratives, nurturing young historians for lasting peace in Nigeria. And this brings me to my very first question, and that will be going to Mr. Augustine. So how do you think diverse perspectives often used in historical narratives can ensure the representation of our stories in history to foster peace building?
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, thank you for the question. If you look at peace building, or when you ask about education, there are different peace building approach that can be linked to history. When you look at, I know some of us need to understand that in peace building, they have what they call negative and positive peace. So this piece has to link to how we tell our stories, how different narrative can be linked to this. Now, we need to use interactive dialogue to bring about how can represent our perspective. When people come together, have a different dialogue, interact together, talk about historical movement or historical stories that happened in the past. Like there are so other persons who have led peace movements that brought about peace in the society. If you look at Martin Luther Jr., he led a very peaceful movement. Margaret also did the same. These are historical representation that brings about when we check history and we talk about them and we bring about dialogue on it. We bring about historical representation, how we can foster peace, and with fostering peace enable us to achieve education quality.
Thank you so much for that. I didn't even know that we had negative and positive peace, and seeing how it can be even used in another angle that I never thought of before. So thank you for that. But moving on to this, even brings me to this next question, and this will be going to Ms. Raquel. I know you are married, but can I say this? All right, thank you. So, in what ways do you think educational institutions can better integrate peace-building elements into their curriculum now to empower the next generation?
Okay, so we are familiar with the curriculum in learning campus. So there's a curriculum that's passed down from nature education down to schools and campus, breaking down how they want to see faith. But what we have noticed is that this happened because of COVID, is that there are different ways that we can actually teach children, which is one of the ways that we can use to teach peace building. One of the ways is education through play. So if you want to teach history, or you want to teach about violence, or peace building, or whatever you want to teach, is to go outside of the regular method of teaching, to teaching children how to really understand. And one of the ways that we don't teach children is through play. And so if we're able to use such approach to teach children, maybe create, for instance, tools that can enable them play. For instance, imagine using building blocks that has names of or characters or places, and children start to build them. An instance, right? And as they build them, you tell them that they get to a certain place where as they're building this block, it will collapse. And you give them blocks that are not symmetrical, in a way that it will collapse. And you explain to them that this pile of things that they're doing is chaos. At some point it evaporates or it floats and it becomes like let's say war or something or crime or something like that, right? Children begin to understand crime or what's it called, or different things they want to teach them because of that activity. Other than just saying, oh, peace is definitely finding peace and just trying to put it in their faces. Or you use things that they understand, things that they normally do. Or we can use water, hot and cold water, to teach them about peace and unity, for instance. So what we need to do is first look at different approaches that we need to teach children beyond the regular teachers. So play is one. Another is fast track learning for children. And fast track learning instead that there are children that learn the regular way. So children who are on the spectrum or children who who have learning disability. We need to create a different way for them to learn. So what we've done over the years is everyone learns the same way, especially here in our part of our community or our society. We put all the children together, so everyone learns the same way. But if we need to find a different approach, we need to find a project fast track that is different for and unique for children who on the spectrum of learning disorder. And also children who have suffered more. So for instance, children who work like we can't teach them the way that you teach children in regular school. It's almost impossible. So you need to create worksheets or tools that enable them understanding the piece that they are. And then finally, it's also language-based learning, which is another what you can use. You can use language. So instead of going to a classroom and speak English and try to force a student to understand and learn in English, and that way you can use their language to teach them. So if I walk into a classroom and I say good morning class, and only people say good morning to me, and I speak in Hausa, and the majority of them answer me, I am not speaking English. There's no way. Because the only way I can get their attention is to speak in their language. So I believe that when we look beyond our traditional way of teaching and take to one of these methods to teach children, I believe that it will help us to get the method that we see.
Wow, thank you so much. That was really insightful. One thing I definitely took from that is we have to get creative in our methods. We can't use the conventional means any longer because I feel they have tried and so far it hasn't probably taken us so far so much, especially because of how much the world is changing today and becoming very dynamic, especially for children and young people today. And coincidentally, this even takes me to my next question, and this would be for Mr. Philip. Now, even from an advocacy perspective, how can technology and digital platforms now be leveraged to enhance the reach and impact of educational narratives for peace building for the younger generation?
Your question actually sparked something in my head, which is the idea of thinking that education is a standalone concept, as regards both the delivery and quality of education and advocacy around it. Right? If you look at what education entails in terms of quality and in terms of delivery, it means that there's no Ministry of Education without Ministry of Budget and Planning. And there's no Ministry of Education without the Ministry of Finance, financing education as well. And there's no Ministry of Education, there's no education without leveraging on ICT, and leveraging on the already existing advancements we have made as a country when it comes to education, when it comes to technology. So, if you talk about leveraging on technology, what are the existing technologies we have in the country so far? You will see that over the last 10 years, there has been advancement on social media. How are we able to harness, all the communication we are doing on social media to make sure that we are reinforcing the narratives around history, around personal and collective responsibility, around social cohesion, to make sure that young people who are accessing social media at this point are picking up this information, around education, around togetherness and so on and so forth. So I think that collaborating with existing ministries, departments, and agencies that work around technology in terms of communication, the National Education Agency and all of that, is going to go a long way in promoting peace, promoting learning, and even reinforcing the conversation around making sure that young people grow up to know the history. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And just brought about a follow-up question. Do you think that they can be tools that might be available to be used in order to promote history learning, or in order to also encourage peace building through history learning?
So available tools, I can't think of any from the top of my head, but I think that if we're able to, make use of, like I said, if we're able to make use of the available social media to develop, short infographics, short videos. One of the most watched videos online now is Cocomelon on YouTube, and every young person, every baby that is going into adolescence will have seen Cocomelon a couple of times. So why not leverage on those kind of platforms to put out learnings, to put out key learnings around our history, as young people in, very catchy means, to get the message of, education and history and nation building.
Alright, thank you so much, Mr. Philip, for that. And now I do have a question for Mr. So how do you take or rather as we commemorate International Day of Education? Alright, thank you so much, Mr. Philip, for that. And now I do have a question for Mr. So how do you take or rather as we commemorate International Day of Education, how can individuals like ourselves, the organizations that we work for, and the government as well, collectively, how can we contribute to ensuring access to quality education that fosters a culture of peace building?
I just want to maybe take a story from someone. We've found ourselves in Nigeria. We are in a country where the people that work in the education sector are only working in the education sector. Some certain number of them are working in the education sector because there is no work elsewhere. And that's why they join. So I'll give you an example of myself. The first job my parents wanted was to be a lecturer. And I was posted to a state, a university, a state university in the Northeast, UB to be precise. And when I got to that place, I was given a course. I would be taking Nigerian Contemporary Affairs, and I went to see my HOD. And he said, let's go and bring. When he stood up, I looked at his shoe, and I looked at his shirt and said, that we need to take this. Why am I telling you this? Because the reality is the education sector is a sector that is thriving without the intervention of the people that are meant to intervene in the sector. And that's what causes the problem or the dilemma that we're into. Now he mentioned something around having an education sector. An education sector cannot be a sector without the Ministry of Finance or the Ministry of Education. I'll give you an example. Over time, for the past 2 years, my life has been being a youth representative of the Global Partnership for Education, which is the largest funding for education. The only problem that funding has is they only fund government. They don't fund civil society organization or any other person. Now I tell you, I do travel. Now I do know that every conversation that government will have, it's a conversation about billions of naira, right? I form part of this meeting. I make input, but I will come back and travel to Adama, that is my state, and all I can see is a signboard, right? GPE is funding this, and this, but there is nothing like that. So the reality is, these are the problems. But I think one of the first things we need to do is the education sector needs to be strengthened. Education sector accountability is a system that has to be in place for the sector to thrive. Now, if we address that, the second issue has to do with curriculum. When we talk about the curriculum, the kind of curriculum we're having today, right? I watched a video some couple of days of the way a teacher in the UK teaching our pupils ABCD, the same ABCD that we were taught in school. The second issue has to do with curriculum. When we talk about the curriculum, the kind of curriculum we're having today, right? I watched a video some couple of days of the way a teacher in the UK teaching our pupils ABCD, the same ABCD that we were taught in school, but in different method, right? So now we have a curriculum that teaches you history. Now, but the history is good, but there is a part of it that is not giving you what you intend to do. And then, if you leave that one aside, we have a system that someone that is teaching you is either hungry or his family is hungry. So obviously, the mental health of that person is not stable. So the sector is in a predicament that we all need to stand up and say this is what we intend to do. Right? We're faced with insecurity. We're faced with lack of projects in the sector. We're faced with lack of needs for people to say we want to do this particular thing. So the problem is, I think the day we study and understand that the sector has an issue and begin to see how we can provide solution, that's the time we're working on. Because I feel now, to be honest, I mean no insult to anybody. We have the best, we send the worst, and we expect the best. I don't know if you understand. So, to be honest, the biggest point now is we have to find a way to create that emotional interest, right? Emotional interest of the sector itself before subsidiary of the sector. You get now understanding that the sector needs our intervention, right? And if we understood that the sector needs our intervention, we put together, and as citizens, I feel we can volunteer, right, to do something. And then we can also advocate, yeah. And if you look at advocacy, it's always around changing behavior, attitude, and so on and so forth. So I think the people that make those policies and the people that drive the policy needs that orientation, their orientation to change. And maybe the last thing I will say, they are not being fair to us because they actually went to school free. And now we have to pay, and then what we're paying for is not what we get. So the sector will always have that issue if we don't wake up to address the issue before looking at how we can come together and run a race and win the race together.
Thank you so much for that, and thank you for sharing your story and for even giving us solutions as well as what to do pertaining to encouraging it to people who are interested in education and passionate about education to be the forerunners of that sector. I would just want to ask again your own opinion. Now, particularly for maybe I understand that there are already issues even in the sector pertaining to maybe low salary payments and all these other things that make people not want to be there even though they are passionate about being there. But are there any other methods or any other areas in your own opinion that might encourage them as well to want to be there, participate, and be part of that sector?
We all have things to play. We all have something to do, right? The government has its own. As civil society organization, we have our own. And then as citizens, that's the larger civil society, has its own, right? But the reality is, I'll give you an instance. We run a campaign in Agama as Connected Development, where we are, for the past 2 years, we've been calling for girl-child education to be strengthened in 2 particular local governments. And I happen to facilitate a session around advocacy and policy influencing for the parents, so that government can do. And then someone stood up and asked me a question, and I could not answer that question because I don't know what to say. Now the question goes like, he has 8 children, 4 of them are graduates, right? One of them is the only one that is working. That person is working is she teaches in a private school that they pay her 18,000, right? And you're telling me to send my other daughter to school, so that what will happen, right? So, and he went further to say, in this community, people insult me with the fact that I have sent girls to school. And I mean, something might have happened. Nobody is marrying my children. I don't know if you understand. So the reality is, we have a long way to go, because the system has a structural issue, right? So, but I'm not discouraging or saying this thing. So when it comes to government, we have to create policies. We have, say it anywhere, and I will tell you, I've been working on policy for the past 7 years. I will tell you, we have rubbish policy. We have policies that are not there to do anything for us, right? So if those policies are strengthened, now we have that point of having to, get feedback from people, right? So that government can make that policy well. And for people, I think for you that how can I put it? For you that for some of us that are learning, right? We need to now go back and get more people to be involved in this. So education is not all about getting the right knowledge and going to work and what have you, because that's what some people think education is all about, right? So I think we need to do more advocacy, we need to do more sensitization, we need to create that level of, a civil society organization, we need to create that level of trust between the citizen and government. Because at this point in time, even if there are policies, right, the citizen don't trust the government. One of the last thing I will say, I'll tell you one policy, I'll give you an example with one policy, and all of us will go back and read about that policy and see whether or not it's a policy that will work for us. We all know about the student loan that was created by this very administration, right? Now, what are the predicament of that student loan? It's not for me and you. It's not for something that someone will use. If I earn 50,000 naira today, the first thing is if I earn 50,000 naira today, right, put together in a year, how much is that? It's around 600. I cannot access the loan. I have been running a campaign to see a vice chancellor. The university you went to, sorry to ask, have you ever seen your vice chancellor? Once. Have you ever seen your vice chancellor? A vice chancellor have to sign that thing before you can access the loan, right? And then if you don't have a lawyer in your house that is, I think, post 5 years post 10 years post call, you cannot access that. And if someone within your household or within your family have defaulted a loan scheme or something, you can't access it. Tell me, I am from Besu or I am from Obodogwa in Delta. How do I access that? It's a fantastic idea of bringing the scheme, but were there any need assessment for Hada has been doing something with people in the slum or people in she has non-students that are willing to do, or him that has been doing something around peace, he has non-children that need this education. How can they access it? So I can go on and on and on, but I think the first thing is we need to sensitize people, and then we need to rebuild trust between people, right, and government for policies to really work. And government need to strengthen that point of doing need assessment for people to say these are their wants and these are their needs, so that sustainability will happen, stability will happen, and then everybody will perceive what the government is trying to do and comprehend what the government is doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mukhtar. I've been learning a lot from this conversation, and I believe you must have been learning as well. At this point, I'll just like to inform us that if we have any questions, we can just note it down, and once we're done with the session, you have an opportunity to ask your question and the speakers will respond back. Not forgetting our audience joining us online, please, if you have any questions, you can just put it in the chat box to be collated, and we can just read it out to our speakers. Okay, so moving on to the next question, Mr. Augustine. Mr. Mukhtar mentioned something about building trust between the citizens and the government. And for some reason, I feel also that this trust that has been broken might also be as a result of us not even doing so much pertaining to what happened in the past, that is considering our history. So how do you think history education can enable us to, knowing what has happened before, can enable us to have that trust between ourselves, the government, ourselves as individuals, different cultures, different tribes, and different religions, in terms of building peace for future generations?
I think I was saddened when history was removed from Nigeria the Yar'Adua administration. I think maybe in 20. I don't remember the year, but history has a way of bringing back that thought of beginning to see how people can understand what has happened in the past, how they can help to advocate for change through the history of what has happened. If you look at building trust between people, this year, similar to the election, we led various peace advocacy efforts to ensure that there is a peaceful election. But it turned out that election wasn't as planned, and things go wrong some places. So when we now talk to people about peace in election, they begin to question us. What has happened? We believe that this election will go well and everything will be peaceful and all of that. Why are not telling us about peace and all of that? We talk to people about participating in the election process and trying to check. They say, what has happened? The trust was broken during those periods. They affect many things to come again. Like now, maybe in the next 5 years, somebody would like to tell a story of what has happened this year during the election. And when the person tells the story, the young generation coming up will begin to lose that trust in government, even in the people as well. But with different diversity, because Nigeria is a diverse entity, group. It has different cultures, different religions. But when you bring people of different culture, different diversity, different languages, when we have an interactive section like this, we talk about our diversity, our history, our heritage. It helps to build trust. It helps to encompass all we have been talking about. So building trust has to be with me telling my own story, how I have been able to contribute to the society we are talking about. You telling your own story, she telling her own story, all of us coming together as one people, sharing our story, our diversity, our heritage, how we have been able to promote inclusivity among ourselves. So peace building has to do with promoting inclusivity, building trust among the people. There's so much that encompasses promoting peace that will ensure that, if we do this, I have a philosophy that says, without peace, there will be no development. If you look at countries that are undergoing various crises and war, you see nothing like development thrive. If you look at the Northeast, you know how much is taking Nigerian government to rebuild the Northeast. You know how much is taking people to rebuild what has been damaged by violent conflict. So when we bring people of different culture, different languages, different ethnicity, we tell our story, we encourage them, we enter into dialogue and open communications, open up our communication channel, tell what has happened, the history of how people have been able to foster peace building efforts in the past. It helps to build that trust. It helps to bring people together to think, yes, I can always do something. Like last 2 years, we went to school to carry out peace education projects. So when we bring young people, students together in a dialogue forum, telling them to tell their story, people from different cultures, different languages, they begin to talk about, they begin to interact, they begin to see similarities, they begin to see, yes, I can actually coexist with this person. I can actually build, this guy can actually be my level. There is no point of going into violent conflict. We can actually build this trust and live as one people. So open dialogue, communication, and telling our story as people will help us build trust.
Well, thank you so much for that. And irrespective of the fact that there are terrible things that have happened, there is so much positive things that have happened as well. And it's important that we share those stories. So thank you for that. Moving on to Mrs. Raquel, if I may ask, what strategies do you think educators can employ or can use to encourage and promote the passion of history among young people, even today here in Nigeria?
So educators can do a lot, but I think I'm happy to get back to the question you're asking in ways that generally we can teach history and peace building. And I'm happy to go back to the service corps, National Youth Service Corps. It's actually a very great tool that we can use to teach history and also help us play assassination. And I don't think that we're utilizing the National Youth Service Corps enough. And I think that it's we were able to get someone who's very passionate about nation building, our history of Nigeria, and also passionate about the future of Nigeria to lead such a program. I think that we can do so much with it. So I'm going to ask one before you ask in what ways we can. I think it's service for national annual, once a year, I think it's once a year, once a year, right? Do good for us. So imagine, for instance, I go for this youth service corps, and every Tuesday I go to learn about the history of the place that I'm serving for 1 year. Do you know what I would learn in 1 year if every Tuesday or every Thursday or every Saturday I go to learn about the people and the culture? I will live there enriched with the history and the culture of the people. And that thing that kept coming to my heart, the question you asked me, I didn't answer my question, but I kept thinking about it. One is about, Father, we don't keep monumental places in Nigeria. So is it going to go back to a place and say, oh, there was a bomb blast right here 10 years ago? When you're at a building, it's not a monumental site for people to come back and even say something happened here. There's a history in this particular place. You go to a place like Tinapa, it's gone. You know, so we don't have places where we keep for historical purposes. So the only place that you can go to is Badagry. And that's it, but they're remodeling and rebuilding that and repainting the place. So you can't say we have a building that's 200 years old in Nigeria, for instance, and even at this time. So we can do well keeping buildings or keeping monumental places, or places where something very significant has happened in Nigeria. We can do well not to destroy it or preserve it for history, so that children can actually go there and learn. Just yesterday, you know, I was at a Zoom call. I was teaching children in America about Nigerian history. And he kept asking me, why am I teaching children about Zoom in America about Nigerian history? Why? Like, do you understand? Like, how? And it's very simple because I put up the book on Amazon called Learn Nigeria, and somebody saw it. And it was a simple book. Just a simple book, just Learn Nigeria. And then I got curious, and that's how I got connected to kids. And imagine that Nigerians are not curious about the book, or someone in another country that is a social studies teacher was curious about the book and says, come and teach my people about, and just give them an overview about the country, talk about Nigerian food or the ethnic groups in Nigeria. So books are also a way we can use. There are tools that educators like myself. And I come back to my question. People like myself can use books. You know, we can use apps. I remember I wanted to create an app once, you know, to promote tourism and to teach about Nigeria. For example, it's called Learn Nigeria. I think that's actually where I got the title of the book from. But it never got past any because I was looking, I didn't have money to look for an app many years ago. But I had all the literature I put together, I had all the ideas about how when you click on the app, you click the video, you hear the stuff, you want to say welcome to the video or good morning the video. So I can even learn about someone in Benin without having to go to Benin, right here in Nigeria. But lack of funding didn't help me because I was very young at the time. Now with more knowledge, if I had, you know, I'm able to navigate that, but I'm not thinking about that project for now. But I'm saying that educators can use books. You know, we can use books, and we can also, you know, we can also use our hearts. I don't know how to explain about using our hearts is that, in the sense that a lot of us go to places we want to work, but only working in places where it's our king's men. So I'll give an instance. I work with IDPs, right? And so because I work with the IDPs, a lot of time when I see people, the children that are in the camp come to us, most of them they come because I speak Hausa to teach children things about Nigeria, music to teach or art or something. But you know, we have what I'm trying to say is that we have the opportunity, we're just not using it.
Thank you so much for that. I think it's pretty amazing, you know, that we have these conversations and these discussions to be able to encourage ourselves and encourage each other pertaining to what we can do moving forward. I know we have an issue with documenting currently in Nigeria, but I believe from this discussion today, even personally for me, I'm going to figure out a way on how to document and, you know, teach the people I know around me more about history.
You know, sorry, just to add on to what she said, I think the kind of resources we have to make this thing work, I just listened to her talk about it, and then it gives me one of the ideas that we try to do. We try to inculcate social accountability to pop culture. I'll give you an instance. Social media is the largest place where you can just pop your conversations are happening. And I will give you an instance. Working for food has taught me a lot of lessons that sometimes I just feel like even us are not interested in power. So I'll give you an instance. We reached out to an artist to say, oh, we have so amount of money, and we want you to just one thing, please, per week or bi-weekly, can you please talk about girl-child education and talk about the importance of education? We will do the content, we'll just share with you and you post. and that at least, and whenever we have an event that we feel like this is an area where you're very big on, we'll bring you in and stuff. That at least charge us 100 million with a private jet whenever he has to travel, right? With a private jet, and then what? 8, like 4 or 5 security you get, and that's why we had to drop it like that. You know, I've been working on education, and then I was thinking it's because of education it will not be something. So I moved to working on health. I tell you what, we approached someone, right, that is non-Nigerian. Then we had a conversation. Okay, this is it, this is it, this is it. And God so kind, the main problem, the critical learning that we are trying to address then was he is from that very community, right? But when I got the email we got with the charges, if I tell you, you will just cry. And we've got them Bono, the founder of One Campaign, doing that just for fun, right? But I think our own people have their own problem. Yeah, we have our own problem. And then if you go to every community, there are 2 people in every community. There's a structure of that community, and then there is an influence of that community. Both the influence and the structure are looking for something to put it out there. Someone categorically looked into my face and told me, you collect money from white people, but if you come here, you show us like you are not, you're not doing this thing. Maybe that's one of the last thing I'll say. We were in Kano doing something around translating the violence against disability law to the disability people. And I insisted that I have to get someone that is living with disability that understands this, to pay him to translate it into Hausa so that his community will, I tell you that, I kid you not, I refunded the money to the donor because the person collected the money, and I stood in for, we have a policy of paying 70% when you finish, like this guy has a thing. Even if we didn't pay him, he would do it. Paid him 100 until today. It's not there. So why am I telling you this? There are people that belong to a community that will provide a solution to that community, right? That will say no to it. Imagine Whiskey tweeting full stop. Go and check how many retweets that tweet have. And imagine Amaka tweeting about International Day of Education. How many people retweeted? And that's the problem you get. So collectively, we just have to see how we can do it. I tell you, I kid you not, I know she's doing this, but the only place she can be recognized if she's attending event and you're hearing about her profile. Any other place like that, the only place he can be recognized if he's attending event. And the young people that are coming, the people that were breathing, everybody wants to see himself flying. I'm going to the US, I'm going to the UK, I'm going to the... so nobody wants to start from where she started from. You get it. So I think we just need to look at legitimacy in this issue, right? We need to look at our legitimacy to see how we can, put up that thing. I just wanted to share that.
Thank you for bringing that to light. Definitely, we understand that we know that we do have some of these issues, but we hope, through the conversations that we have, that we'll be able to reach out to more people to bring them to that enlightenment of what needs to be done. Mr. Philip, Mr. Mukhtar spoke on the area pertaining to government, and Ms. Raquel spoke on an area on what educators can do. Now, bringing it down to our civil society organizations, some of these places that we work with, how do you think that they can inspire passion for history to even promote peace building and lasting peace amongst us here in Nigeria?
The issue around history in terms of education, history in terms of us as a nation cannot be emphasized. So just to lighter note, how many of us please get sports events here?
No reason. It's another exam.
Okay, so the issue I brought that up is because of, there's what they call head-to-head. In head-to-head is like the number of times the team has played against a certain team, right? And that's one of the key factors you use when analyzing, to get the prediction correctly. I don't bet. Disclaimer. Yes. So I'm the young one. So was it 3-4 last week when Nigeria was going to play Cote d'Ivoire? I was just describing the situation to a female colleague who obviously does not watch football. And she asked me who I thought was going to win. And the first thing I did, I just quickly went online and checked head-to-head, Nigeria and Cote d'Ivoire. And I saw that all the 8 times that we had played, we had never drawn. So the first thing I thought that we are not going to win this match, right? And the second thing I thought that yes, that's fantastic. And the second thing I thought that was
so you are playing. Just go ahead and play.
So what I'm trying to say is that even in our everyday, day-to-day life, beyond education, beyond history, history, as past events, to forecast what's going to happen in the future, which informs what we are going to do. And even in epidemiology, public health, the study of diseases and application to control such diseases, people knew that something was going to happen within 2018 and 2020 because pandemics based on trends happened in the space of 90 to 100 years. So which means that after COVID, now nothing like COVID is going to happen. So pandemic until like the next 90 to 100 years. So these are patterns, these are trends, these are history in our everyday day-to-day life. Coming to the issue of civil society engaging around fostering, one of the things I did before coming to this place was quickly go through the initiative that's the Young Historians, and I see it as one of the key things that civil society organizations as well as government can adopt to inspire young people to study history. If you look at what that Young Historians competition sort of did was incentivize the idea behind studying history. And if you look at it critically, you will see that when you incentivize, even though it's not advised most times, when you incentivize programs like that, you get people charged up, you get people to be on the like that. Another way that civil society organizations can inspire young people to learn to collaborate, continue collaboration. Civil society cannot do it alone. That's the simple truth. If you think that you are doing this in Abuja and in Nasarawa, probably you can just cover two local governments. You can cover simple truth. If you think that you are doing this in Abuja and in Nasarawa, probably you can just cover two local governments. You can cover 3 communities in this local government. So if you continue to collaborate with the government, it tries to improve. What that does is to expand your reach, and that at the end of the day, when you carry government along in the implementation of the program, at some point, even though the dynamics in Nigeria is different, like everybody has said, but we hope that they get it right eventually one day, and then they are able to adopt best practices from civil society organizations, from what you are doing as a person and as a foundation, to ensure that can be upscaled as well, to ensure that the conversations around history is in the forefront. So off the top of my head, those are 2 or 3 things that civil society organizations can do.
Thank you so much for bringing us to that knowledge. And just to add, though, the next edition of the Young Historian Competition will be coming up very soon, so you can just watch out to encourage the young people that you know to register and apply. It's basically for Nigerian university students, so tertiary, you must be in a Nigerian university, you have to be a young person as well to be able to apply. And also you can partner with us too as well for this year's edition. And so basically we've come to the end of the panel session. Sad, I know. but but I'll just like to give our speakers, 1 minute to just say something to encourage us, pertaining to our topic today, nurturing young historians for lasting peace. So I'll start with Mr. Abbas.
Okay, thank you. For me, I think everyone needs to get involved. Peace encompasses a whole lot of things, and peace and education, if you look at them, they marry each other. We try to develop peace education curriculum for secondary schools, where students can learn about conflict resolution, conflict management, leadership, and how they can be able to change their narrative of thinking about diversity, about culture, about where they are coming from. Because sometimes when they watch or read about things happening in the society, they begin to imagine things that are not supposed to be imagined. So we try to have them, give them that orientation, try to incorporate peace education in school so that they can be able to understand history and they read about how education can be able to promote peace, or how peace can also contribute for them to having quality education. Because if there is no peace, their school cannot even stand. We give them instances where school have been bombed, where school has been destroyed. So them having to interact with their classmates who come from different ethnic groups, different places, help them build trust and foster peace among different cultures and others. And for us, everyone have to be a player in peace building, because peace building is actually what brings about development. If you look at countries that have, there's a peace index. If you look at peace index by Institute for Peace and Economics, there's how they rank countries that are peaceful. Like when I started my conversation, I mentioned about positive peace and negative peace. So countries that rank high, they measure their positive peace. This has to do structure, both how distribution of resources, how things are done in the society. If you look at Finland, these are countries that have gone up in their peace index. Nigeria is ranking about 100 and some 90 something in terms of peace index. They are very far. So all of us have to be a player in promoting peace and ensuring that when we promote peace, we are also advancing education, because without peace, there will be no development.
Thank you so much, Mr. Augustine, for that. Definitely, without peace, there will be no education. Mr. Mukhtar, just in 1 minute, any additional statements you might want to make?
All right, so for me, I would say peace and then history start from our houses. So if we can promote that with in between, whatever peace, history, start within. So if we can promote that, is something we need to do. And collectively, we need to just stand up for what we have. If the history is not written well, then other people will write the history for us. So for other people not to write the history for us, we need to write the history by ourselves, with ourselves, for ourselves, so that we can prefer peace.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mukhtar. So we need to tell our stories more. We should write our own stories so that we don't have an alternative or an alternate narrative. This is Raquel.
I think that we should all live here with the mindset that yesterday is history, first of all. Yesterday is gone. And so how can we start documenting now? Because what happened yesterday? And if there are people that are still alive that haven't died in our history, how can these young historians begin to get our history out of them? When I was growing up, we used to call Mama Yara. People spoke that we used to go and get told their own life from it. That's why most of us get about our history. How can we, for those who are still alive, how can young people go to them and tap from and document our history? And so knowing that what happened yesterday is already history, so we start documenting now whatever is happening now for the generation to come. And also for our educators and also CSO, my charge would be to find a way to inculcate peace talk and history into our contents that we build. He already mentioned trying to get artists to talk about this thing, and they're charging so much. So why wait until an artist we can together share. So when I was looking for what to share for International Day for Education, not many people share things. Like if someone had tweeted and tagged, we share it. You know, I'm busy with my kids, but I'm saying that I was looking at the content of people that share so that we just retweet for them. We don't have a lot of followers, but if you share, somebody would see it. You know, so we can begin to share things from each other. And if you have access to podcasts, video content, radio, books, whatever it is, please share. In my books, you can't find snow in my books. You find Hamatan in my books. I've read 25 books for kids. You find Ife, Lagos, you find Boss, you find Keke Nape, Nigerian street lights in my books. So that children can see. So in 50 years, if Nigeria changes our street lights, they're going to find the street lights that we use in 2022, in my books, in 50 years to come. So that's how I'm documenting history. I'm documenting what is present in Nigeria now. So that when I'm gone in 50, 100 years, when you pick up a book that I've written, the 1,000 books I'm going to write before I die, you're going to see Nigeria in the book, how Nigeria looks like now, the streets and estates, education in Nigeria. I think that's what we should all begin to think. That tomorrow is already history. Sorry, yesterday is already history. We have an opportunity to start now.
Wow, thank you so much. We can never overemphasize documentation. Please let's give our speakers a round of applause. Have we had a good time? I've had a good time. Okay, so because of time, we'll just take 2 questions, and I don't know if we have any questions from our online viewers. Do you have any? But while we try to get that, do we have any question? Okay. Wow, we can only take 2, but I was going to take the first 2 people that rose up their hand, like the sir there. Okay. And then, the gentleman in the face mask too. So I think we'll go with both of them for now. Okay, you can go ahead first, since I first saw his hand.
Alright, good evening everyone. Alright, my name is Haruna Ludia. I work with the NGO and I did some information around education. I just want to say thank you to all the speakers. You guys spoke excellently. Apologies that I took days for the event. But however, I was able to follow through with all the conversation and I was able to pick up many things. Malcolm Baldrige, a journalist, once said that all news are old news happening in you. So that means history is just what is written because people will read. So you think it's news, but something that's happened before, right? I have 2 questions and 1 recommendation. My first question I want to ask is, I hear a lot of things around how we can build young people, how we can encourage education, history, and the likes. But I think across the conversation, I struggle with the concept of the politicization of education in Nigeria that we didn't pay attention to or we didn't explicitly talk about. Government determines how education will become. In fact, the knowledge of Nigeria today is determined by the elite or a particular class. My question is, what are we doing? Because I can see these are individuals from different organizations doing great things. What are the organizations doing to ensure that they influence what government is doing? I didn't even know that the Nigerian government have a curriculum development agency, not until I dig deep. When I dug deeper and I saw that Nigeria has an agency, I think NERDC, they develop curriculum. Secondary Education Board in Abuja are just in charge of the implementation of the curriculum. They don't influence it. So certain things like that, I'm sure that some of us struggle to understand. So my question is, what are the CSOs doing to ensure that we work with government agencies and ensure that this politicization of education does not affect our history? History was not removed from one day. It was a process that it led to remove our. Where were we when the process was going on? Town hall meeting happened. People were called to places. We were not there. That's my first question. My second question is, we talk about how we're going to do this, how we're going to do this. But you and I know that, well, let me say you and I know that there is no synergy between NGOs. Everybody wants to be CEO. Everybody wants to be founder. This one wants to do his own. And there is lack of transparency. This one is doing education initiative, and that one is coming to do another education initiative. The same thing, same concept. So my question is again back to the CSOs, because I can see there is no government agency here. And that's my recommendation. If it's kind of conversation, we need to bring government. All this talk will not go anywhere. Government needs to sit here. At least somebody from education board is here. The person will give us information on how we can, engage and how we can go. So those are my questions and my recommendations. Thank you.
Alright, thank you very much. But I don't know, were you addressing it to anyone in particular?
No. Anybody can respond to that question.
Yeah. So maybe I want to go first, but I want you to understand one thing. I like the fact that you said you work in an NGO. There's what is called shrinking civic space that is happening within the country now. So I'll tell you, one of the major things civil society organizations have been using to access information from government has been the Freedom of Information Law that has been in existence for over 275 years. But it got into Nigeria in 2011. But there is a caveat to it, because it's a federal law. Subnational or state government always say, we did not domesticate this law. Again, I don't know what that means for people that study English. Domestication, I don't know what that means. But for one state that have domesticated the FOI, it's Delta State. They have their own caveat, and the caveat is if you don't pay tax in Delta and you're not resident of Delta, you cannot ask questions. But this is a law that just gives you a right to ask questions about anything, but not, it limits you to military equipment and security issues and what have you. Now, that tool has been denied from people, right? Now, so getting to access the information, you can never work with what you don't have. What I have as a belief is bring together 7,700 plus civil society organizations and other existing cannot do one thing that a government agency will do. Now, sometimes I was in NIDA today, we were trying to do some sort of things, and I got to understand that there is an agency called National Palm Oil Research Institute. We're gone in this nation. So my own is, I will align myself with some of the things you said about not having that point of synergy. But you see, civil society organization, I will say one of the things that has been dividing the civil society organization has always been that issue of civic space shrinking. Now, when I said something around young people, every young person, right? It's not, when you said every, there are a lot of people that don't want to be CEOs, right? But a lot of the number of CEOs, number of people want to be CEOs, it's not because there is something different. But I will tell you one thing. You mentioned one key thing after you started talking. That is politicalization of things. Everything has been politicalized. So poverty contributes to this kind of things. Everybody wants to be at the top. I tell you, times without number. I work for an organization for the past 7 years. I tell you, every blessed day, people meet me to say, when are you starting your own? And someone met my mom, and then my mom was so bitter. You have been doing this, you have been doing this. But I have come to realize one thing. I am not a good leader, right? I easily get carried away when it comes to doing things. I'll give you an example. I used to manage my dad's driving school. The PA of my dad will greet me from the gate. I will have to be inside before I'll say morning because I feel I am big. And when I understood that that was my weakness, I now told myself, you know what? I am okay working for someone. So reality is why you see a lot of people going to that position is one, poverty. The second one is lack of mentorship. And the third one is not knowing where to go. But I think as we, both myself and you and the people that are here, what we can do is limited. What we can do in the sense that we can mentor or inform these people about, coming together to build coalition, because that is what is moving now. build coalition. At some point in this country, we wake up and they say Twitter is gone. A lot of people were still tweeting because they were using BVN and what have you. So if you look at stories of movement, you will see that movement comes together because some people have interest in doing something. But we cannot achieve that because everything has been politicalized and then there is poverty in the land, right? Now, the last thing I would say is there is something we did with having to look at states and look at what is the gender responsive public service structure in just some of these states. I'll give you an example with Enugu, Kaduna, Akwa Ibom, Lagos. Now, if you go to Enugu, one of the major issues of young people has been alcoholism, right? And the biggest point of their challenge, every young person is talking about maybe water issues and what have you, and then scholarship and what have you. So the reality is, young people are just being brought in government to fill the gap, not as they are being brought as people like, oh, okay, we have a youth representative, not someone that his or her own idea will be heard. I resigned from being a youth representative of GPA. Everybody was asking why, because I felt like whenever there is meeting, we'll be traveling to Paris. You say, Mukhtar, you want to apply for visas? And if you go, you just meet a group of ministers, speak to them, and tomorrow if you come back, the same person you spoke to will not even recognize you. That is you. The person I sit to, write the speech and stuff. We flew to Paris, we were in the same hotel and stuff. When we came back, this is not what I said. He cannot remember me. So talk more of what I said in the meeting. What do you expect him to do? I don't know if you understand. And then we have a lot of things. I can go on and on and on. But the only issue I feel is it's not about civil society. What civil society is meant to do is to support. We've done something with education as a vaccine. I've known that for good. Till today, if I'm looking at the subject matter specialist on education, I will always rush to that. You get. But the reality is the government is not giving the space, right, for us to do. And what we have to address is exactly what you said on issue of politicalization of everything. Everything is being politicalized and regulated. And the moment we all don't wake up to ask questions about it and demand for it, because democracy is all about demand and supply, question and answer. The moment we don't do it, I don't think we can do it. But with what we have, I'm sure we'll get somewhere.
Alright, thank you so much, Mr. Mukhtar. I don't know if any of our speakers want to say something in addition to
what I'd like
that.
to say is, I don't think that everyone works in silos. I don't think so. There are a lot of people that actually are synergizing, especially the older ones, the ones that call them veterans, right? Who already have grown in the sector. I've been in the sector 15 years. There's no how I'm working by myself. Like, I'll be mad to work by myself. Like, I made a post about a program I'm doing, and Gideon sent me a DM. Raquel, what's up immediately? We're doing this also this year. How are we doing this? I'm on WhatsApp for like an hour discussing the work already. There's no how. I think we're crazy, right? Yes, there are a lot of young people that you are seeing alone working because, and you mentioned the problem is mentorship. And because there's so many of them, it looks like we're all working in silos. It's not possible. A lot of us have coalitions and networks that we work with. And that's what has helped us to do our project. For instance, I had a project with the Massacre Foundation to reach 17 states in Nigeria. There's no how. I don't have the resources. What did I tap into? My network, my friends in the sector. I just sent a message saying, who works in XYZ state, reach out. And already from the WhatsApp group. Already, they are saying, these are my people here, my people are here, this is school, this is school. I didn't have to write letters to all the governments, all the schools and state governments. Those that were in those states already have those approval. We just worked with them and we executed. So not everyone is working in silos. The problem that we're having is the government is not making it easy for us to know what they are doing. So even when they're having programs, they only bring one person or two into the meeting, and it's even just level talk. The main talk doesn't happen in the room where we're there. That's the truth. The reason why I stopped for a long time working with anything government, which I felt was a very bad idea, was because you get into a room and what you discuss is not what is really going to be said outside. So what was discussed, it ends there, they take a note, but there's a different topic completely that will be said to the press. In fact, in that meeting, by the door. And I'm thinking, I was in that meeting, she didn't say that. Do you understand? I'm like, you know what, leave government and leave me. I'm going to do my work in the grassroots. Nobody needs to know me. I don't need to work with them. And first, like I said, it was a bad idea because, you know, we always need the government. If maybe some of us have stayed the course, maybe not get upset and run away, you know, probably I'm able to. I wrote a book and people say this book needs to get into the education system. Most private schools are using your book, Raquel. Why is the government school not using it? Someone took the book and took it to the curriculum, something to check the book. The book has been there 2 years. They said I should bring money. Do you understand? Before it can be reviewed or they take it to who. And I don't have that time. If private schools are using it, I'm good. If people think the government school should use it, one day, the government would wake up and realize that this is a great book and I want to use it. So some people will keep lobbying and make sure that they're trying to get it to work. But for someone like me that's very impatient with these things, I just let it go and say, let me keep my private schools and I'm good. So I'm giving you an instance that some of us want to work with the government. Some of us have put our 1 foot forward, but 2, keep 2 feet inside. But nothing is really happening. We're not being engaged. But the things that are really happening, they're not telling us. And when the big funding, you hear about the big funding, and then you see the report of the work, and you are in the room, and you wonder, okay, the big funding came, I was in the room. The report, so what happened between the reports? You are not there. And there's a report, and there's nothing you can do because who am I, small Raquel? I don't have anything to say. But like I was in the room, they didn't do the project, they are putting GP poster, just in GP, not GP. My point, right? I'm not going to say that, but I'm going to stay in my living room confused. I'm wondering where 500 million went to between the meeting I was in, where it was approved, and the report. Because in between that time, nobody called me. They've done the project, which we know they didn't do the project. Right? So I'm saying that a lot of us want to, but the government is, I don't want to use the word corrupt because I think it's beyond corrupt. Right? So much that some of us are afraid that it will go, our names will be tinted. That's the truth. Some of us are really, really afraid that if we get there, something will happen. They will put your name on the list and the next EFCC is after you. So there's that. And then finally, I agree with you that someone in the government should have been here. But I'm taking it back to what I just said now. The person will come here and sit here and cross their leg.
I was not allowed
and the person will not say anything.
I'm only here for...
I'm only here to represent my boss. The person will not even take notes. The person will not take notes. The person will not even go and give any report that they were there. Oh, sir, I was there. That was it. I represented you, sir. And that may be it, or I represented you, ma'am. And the people that they send are not people that can do anything to policies. Because the big people that will need to hear us will not come here. So what we need is not us to wait for the big things to happen. We're okay starting like this. Let's keep talking. One day our voices will be heard. And is there a need for us to come together and speak louder? Yes, there is a need for us to come together and speak louder. What we need to do is, find other people who are doing what we're doing and then, work into them. I think that's what we need to do. That's what my opinion would be. And I thank you for your comments, but I really felt it was great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so let me just add a comment to the whole politicalization thing. The issue of politics, and agendas are not only restricted to education, it goes beyond education, it touches on health and everything. Let me give you an example. A couple of days ago, Nigeria launched the grant cycle for the Global Fund, and they received over billions of dollars for Nigeria. Now, somebody was telling me, a public health specialist was telling me that what is going to happen? Do you think that if malaria is totally eradicated, what happens to the agencies and the numbers of people who work around malaria? Should they be jobless? Is the government still going to get that amount of funding coming into the country for malaria? Talk about tuberculosis, talk about HIV. For education, for things around education, for things around economic empowerment, you would see that poverty continues to be a tool that people who are in power use to suppress the public. So most of the times these things are political agenda, and that's why it's even important for beyond working in thematic areas, whatever thematic area you are working at as regards civil society. It's important that you continue to be part of political conversations, because at the end of the day, if you are saying you are doing education or you are doing health, the decisions are going to be made about education and about health politically. So these are agendas that you need to be a part of.
And I would just like to read a comment from someone who joined us online. And he said, I want to use this media and opportunity to appreciate all the panelists. Well done for dealing religiously and judiciously on the topic of discussion and essence of this event. Our society indeed can be great again. I am impressed. This is from Emmy Ben. So thank you to Emmy Ben for his comments and for joining in. We have come to the end of our panel session. Please, I would like us to give a resounding round of applause to our speakers. Please, we can do better than that.
Yeah, I had a great time at the event. I think one of my takeaways is that we all have a role to play in learning about our history as a people, also documenting for the future. So today was an amazing day for me. I think that the event is needful, especially for young people who have the opportunity to talk to older people right now. I would challenge you to do so, because these people currently carry our history. So if you have the opportunity to talk to an older person, to document what they know, do that, so that the people that are coming after us would have the opportunity to read from us what they knew while they were still alive. This opportunity is something that I don't take for granted, and I'm calling on other non-profits who have the opportunity to run events like this, talk about nation building, peace building, and also about our history, to do the same, because by doing so, and by bringing people together to talk about these issues, I believe that it will help us to move for that country.
All right, so I have to say I'm happy that I'm able to join the Restore Heart Foundation to talk about education, to talk about history, and it has been a very engaging event to learn. I've learned, I've relearned, and I've unlearned some things, and what I will say is we need to educate our young people, children, pupils, and every other person about our history, so that we can write our history with ourselves and also speak about our history with ourselves. Thank you.
My name is Zach Onwe. I work as a health communications person for Doctor of Nigeria. Yeah, so one thing I do is basically around health education and awareness. So basically that's what I do. And being here in this program is understand the importance of education. Just like what in public health, we believe that awareness is one thing that can affect people and translate to the change we want. But I think, and the program on history, it's history education, right? So it's something that is very, very key and crucial to creating awareness on the importance of education, and also marking International Day of Education like this. It's something that should be done consistently to really create more awareness around education. I enjoyed listening to the speakers, and they also spoke from the perspective of the civil society, which is also one thing that we all need. One thing they said consistently was talking about how we need collaborative efforts to increase, to bring the change we really want to see.